Hey folks, and welcome to the Pipnotic Symposium for the 10th of February 2020. Today we're going to run over a couple of pairs, and we're also going to have a look at currency strength. So how is currency strength being used? Well, the histogram that I recently updated is being used in a way that enables us to see potential overbought and oversold readings. So when you have extreme currency strength divergence for a pair, we can expect this divergence to move in the opposite direction. So we have, for example, extreme pushes high into an area of supply, and when we get this combined with overbought readings, well, then we can expect price to wriggle lower. And if you have overbought and oversold readings, that means that price needs to retrace a little bit before we can continue to move higher, because essentially we need to advertise cheaper prices so that we can continue to move higher. And this pullback, this advertising of cheaper prices, is where profits will be taken. And so if we have a look at the American dollar, Singaporean dollar, I'm running this on a small live account just to get some data so I can draw some conclusions. And what we have here is we have extreme overbought reading for the American dollar, Singaporean dollar on the 4-hour chart at supply. So we had this tiny area of supply, price rallied, we poked up into this area inefficiently. You can see we have an inefficient move here, and we have a little bit of an inefficiency here as price moved up into this area of supply, which is also a nested daily area of supply. And so we can expect price to wriggle lower from here, shorter term. And this is interesting because, price just doesn't move up. If we have, here we have the Singapore index, and here we have the American dollar index, the green line. And these currency indexes, they just don't go like that. They don't move up or down like so. They have to wriggle up and down in order to attract prices. So price will go up, then it'll come down, then it'll go up, and it'll go down like so. This is how it happens. If price moves higher like this, we have to come back down to attract buyers at demand. If price moves higher again, we come back to demand to attract buyers. And so if you look on a long time frame, you can see that price kind of bottomed out here, so we sold off here, and now we started to turn around, and now we're kind of reaching these historical high levels on the daily. But on the 4-hour, we're also having these extreme high readings on the histogram. Does this mean it's going to stop and turn around and hit our target? Absolutely not. But it just means there's a likelihood that we're going to have a small pullback big enough for us to take the trade-off at a profit. Okay, so it's really interesting to watch this, and I've been watching this for a couple of weeks now, and it's doing pretty well, just trading using this methodology. And you can see here, where would you take profits on this? Well, you can see we had supply here. Supply's just here, price poked up into it, we came back down, we rallied, we accumulated below it, and then we left. And so essentially we want to be out of this trade by the time we get to this area of accumulation, and so we're getting out just above. But we don't know if it's going to get there. We'll just have to keep an eye on it. We have to keep an eye on the strength readings and make sure that we don't have any major deviations from our expectations as this currency pair continues to develop. Okay, so really fascinating project. I've also built in an alarm that helps me find these automatically, where I have a scanner function, and if you set this to true, it's going to scan all of the currency pairs, and it's going to find the ones that are overbought and oversold. And I'll just give you a quick demo of that so you see what it looks like. Turn that on. Wow, that about blew my eardrums out. I'm just going to reset that. So here we have Singaporean dollar, Japanese yen, which is oversold. We have the Kiwi Japanese yen, which is oversold, Kiwi dollar oversold, and the American dollar, Singaporean dollar, which is overbought, which is the one I hopped in here. And so I'm in all of these trades now, and this one as well. Okay, so the Singaporean dollar, Japanese yen, we got in at the beginning of a buy zone, just a little bit early, because I created like a small algo trader that takes this information and gets into trades automatically, so I don't have to sit and watch it all the time. And so we got in a little bit early, about 20 pips too early. So price is just starting to turn around now, and it's beginning to move higher. So if we have a quick look at that trade, because it's pretty interesting for many reasons. So if we look at this, I mean, it found this area here, or the readings were met at this level here, so roughly around on this little price push here. And we had kind of price moving around like this, and I was hoping that price would continue to move higher, and it did. We actually had a pullback, which was this one. So this trade went into profit almost immediately. But then we started to see Japanese yen weakness, strength, and Singaporean dollar weakness, and so price managed to move down to the beginning of the buy zone. And you can see the buy zone, I've marked it off here for us to see. And if we have a look here, we have this area of demand, which is software found, so we mark that off it like that. And this, since price left this area of demand, we pulled back. So this is the deepest pullback since it left here. So I would expect price to come back down here, but we've actually just started reacting at the beginning of the buy zone, which is here. And this is essentially where price has decided to find a little bit of support. I don't know how long that is going to hold. But if we have a look on, I haven't done this, but on a smaller time frame, maybe we have some divergence occurring as well. Yeah, so you can see here as well that we have prices pushing lower, but we have the strength of these currencies not really supporting any additional moves lower, and so we can potentially expect price to wriggle up like that. So if you're a divergence trader, you can also look to the histogram for that. I don't trade it that much, or certainly not exclusively, but when it's lining up with buy zones, sell zones, and supply and demand, well, then I'll absolutely positively use that as some kind of a confirmation if price is going to hold or not. So it's really interesting, and for the guys using it, I really encourage you to invest a bit of time on studying the software, because it's really doing some pretty interesting things. Okay, good. So let's have a look at some pairs. Let's have a look at the American dollar Swiss franc. You can see here we're approaching this area of supply on the 4-hour chart, but also notice that we've traded in this area here before, so we don't really have any fresh supply until higher. But what we do have here, we have the beginning of kind of a sell zone, which is here. It's a little bit too high around here, still too high, but bugger it. So we have the beginning of the sell zone, because this is where price reacted historically, here and here, and now we're moving deeper, which brings our attention to this. This has not been tested. Kind of price traded at this area historically. We moved sideways, and then we cut away, and we tried to get back to it a couple of times. We didn't succeed. But notice also that we're having higher lows, and so this is telling us that we're starting to see a shift of liquidity in support of the American dollar. And so price will probably move through, probably have a bit of reaction at this area here. But I'm thinking price is probably going to continue to move higher, because there's nothing in here until we get up to here. This is where we have some supply that's been tested on the way down. Then above that we have this up here. So there's plenty of room for price to wriggle higher. There's not a lot going on in here that would stop price from moving, and so there's expectation that this is going to continue to wriggle higher. Okay, this is a 4-hour chart. So let's have a look on the daily. And notice on the daily as well that, looking at the currency strength, we had very low readings here. We have lower readings here. Again, we have price moving lower, but the strength not supporting any continued moves lower, and so this makes me feel as if this is going to continue to move higher. We also have interest rate differential, which supports moving into American dollars and out of Swiss franc. So we have some interesting stuff going on here. And again, if you guys aren't using the histogram, grab a hold of it and use it, because it's a really powerful tool. And if you don't have a Pipnotic software, then you can grab the free versions. I know there's a currency strength indicator on one of the Forex Factory threads. So have a look at that, because I think it'll be quite helpful. Okay, so you can see here, we can expect this to move higher. But before we make any conclusions, let's have a look. Yeah, so this is the trade that we were in. Of course, earlier we got in the trade here. Took a long time for this to work out. We got poked in 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week, 5 week, 6 weeks. After 6 weeks, it's finally started to move. And so if you're getting into trades like that, you have to pay attention to this stuff, because you'll be paying dividends every day just to hold this pair negative, but you'll be paid positive dividends just by holding it. Okay, so this is an interesting one. So you want to, if you're trading longer term, you want to be paying attention to this because it can get quite expensive and it can eat away at your profits. Okay, so that's what we have there. So expectation, this is going to continue to wriggle higher. I want to keep this video short today, so I'll have a look at the American dollar, Japanese yen as our next one. And what do we have here? Let's have a look on the monthly. So what's going on here? Currency strength, you see we're moving lower. I mean, that's, you don't need the strength information to tell us that. You can see this is slowly drifting lower, and this is what we can see very clearly here. Okay, on the weekly chart, we have just kind of poked into the beginning of a buy zone. So this is the buy zone here. This is the demand, rather. Here, software found it. Beginning of the buy zone was there. We test it again, and finally again, and now we're moving higher. So this is the third time back to this area of weekly demand, and now we're drifting higher. So what does that mean? Well, that means that, well, you can see that price is slowly wriggling higher. We took this trade short on the weekly chart. This one just here. So price poked into it. We had a test, and then price came down, and now price is moving higher. Okay, so if we have a look at this, what's going on? See, price is poking away at this area of nested daily supply. But the reason this is no longer interesting to us is because, well, the reason this one was interesting was because when price left here, we managed to trade below here. Okay, so that tells us that we have strength in this push lower. Okay, notice this one came up. We reacted to this area of supply. Did price manage to trade below this? It didn't. It did not do that at all. And so this tells us that we have demand holding and supply potentially being removed. Okay, and so we can expect this area of daily supply not to last because, well, the way what it's doing now as well, it's kind of moving up to the area. We have the area just here. Let's just draw it. Now it's kind of moving like that, accumulating just below it. So that would make me a little bit nervous holding this position long, because I would expect, based on seeing this many times in the past, that it's just going to move out and through, and then deeper into this weekly area of supply. Will it do that? We don't know, but there's an expectation that's probably going to move above this high, which brings our attention to this fresh area of supply just here. This is an interesting one because we have an area of, let me remove this here, we have a continuation pattern just here, which was tested. Let me get that properly. Like that, tested, and then price moved away. Okay, beginning of the sell zone was here. Price tested it almost. We went through it. We came down, and now we're moving higher. We're probably going to move above these highs and poke deeper into this area of supply. Okay, so this is something that we could look at. We've got this here. We have a couple of areas here. We have kind of an area on top of an area, so like a parent and a child. These are actually all linked together, these ones, so we'll mark off the whole area like so. And this is a better area because when price left here, we gapped down. Another thing to remember is that when we left here, we moved below here, we retraced, and then we continued to move down. Okay, and so there's a lot of reason to believe that this is going to provide slightly more of a challenge on the way down. And also notice that we have pretty high readings on the histogram here. You can see the price has been moving higher, kind of dwindling off. We have very oversold Japanese yen, so maybe it's time for the yen to start to enter the new cycle of being bought at roughly this area here. Okay, so a couple of things to consider there. We do have this upward sloping trend line again, but we need this high to be removed before we buy, and we need a most recent low to be consumed in order to sell. So there's not a lot to do for the time being. What we could do is we could eyeball this, watch price poke into it, and see what price does when it gets there. Keep an eye on the currency strength for perhaps divergence at that area, and act accordingly. Okay, so yes, so a couple of things to keep an eye out on there. If you're not using this, install it. If you're not a Pipnotic member, grab the currency strength indicator available on the the Forex Factory thread. Just search for currency strength. There's one in there, and you'll be able to use that. Yeah, something to look at. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please add them to the video comments or send them to me in the forum. Thanks for watching.